Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You are sitting in a quiet place. Your phone is in your hand or your headphones are on your ears. A calm voice begins to tell a story in English. The words are slow. The sentences are clear. You are not stressed. You are not trying to remember grammar rules. You are simply listening. You understand the feeling of the story, even if you do not understand every single word. Your mind feels relaxed. This is not study. This is natural learning. This is how learning English with stories truly begins. Most people believe that learning English means hard work, pressure, and confusion. They think it means memorizing long lists of words, learning tense after tense, and solving grammar exercises again and again. For some time, this method may work. You may pass exams. You may recognize rules. But when it is time to speak or listen in real life, everything disappears. Your mind becomes empty. Your confidence disappears. This happens because language is not meant to be learned only through rules. Language is meant to be felt, heard, and lived. Stories allow this to happen. Stories are one of the oldest ways humans have learned. Long before schools existed, people learned through stories. Parents told stories to children. Elders told stories to villages. Stories carried wisdom, emotions, and lessons. The human brain is naturally designed to remember stories. When you listen to a story, your brain does not feel like it is studying. It feels like it is experiencing something. This experience makes learning deeper and longer lasting. When you learn English with stories, your brain starts to connect words with meaning, not translation. This is very important. Many learners translate every English sentence into their native language. This slows down understanding and speaking. Stories slowly break this habit. When you hear the same words again and again in different situations, your brain understands them directly. You no longer need translation. This is how real fluency begins. Another powerful benefit of stories is emotion. Emotion is memory's best friend. When a story makes you feel happy, sad, curious, or surprised, your brain becomes more active. Words connected to emotions stay longer in your memory. You may forget a grammar rule, but you will remember a sentence from a story that touched your heart. This emotional connection is something textbooks cannot give you. Fear is one of the biggest enemies of language learning. Fear of making mistakes, fear of speaking incorrectly, fear of being laughed at. Stories create a safe space. When you listen to stories, there is no judgment. No one is correcting you. No one is watching you. You are free to make mistakes in your mind. This freedom relaxes your brain, and a relaxed brain learns faster and better. Listening to stories also trains your ears. Many learners say, "I can read English, but I cannot understand spoken English." This is because listening is a skill that needs practice. Stories give your ears regular, gentle training. You start to recognize sounds. You start to understand pronunciation. You begin to feel the rhythm of English. Slowly, fast English becomes less scary. Your ears become stronger. Stories also teach you natural English. Textbooks often teach perfect, unnatural sentences. Real people do not speak like that. Stories show you how English is actually used. You hear common phrases. You hear how people express emotions, make requests, say sorry, or show happiness. This makes your English sound more human and less robotic.
When you listen to English stories regularly, repetition happens naturally. Important words appear again and again. Each time you hear them, your understanding becomes clearer. This repetition does not feel boring because it is part of the story. Your brain loves this kind of repetition. It feels natural, not forced. At the beginning, you may feel slow. You may think you are not learning anything. This feeling is normal. Language learning is not something you can see immediately. It is like growing a plant. For some time, nothing seems to change, but under the surface, your brain is working. It is building connections. One day, you suddenly realize that you understand more than before. You remember words easily. You form sentences without thinking too much. This moment comes quietly, but it is powerful. Learning English with stories also helps you think in English. Thinking in English is a major step toward fluency. When you imagine scenes, characters, and actions in English, your mind starts to work in English. You are no longer translating, you are understanding directly. This makes speaking faster and more natural. Many learners ask if they should stop studying grammar completely. The answer is no. Grammar is useful, but it should not be the starting point. Grammar makes more sense after you have listened a lot. When you already understand English sentences from stories, grammar becomes easier. You start saying, "Oh, I have heard this structure before." Grammar then becomes a tool, not a problem. Consistency is more important than intensity. Listening to stories for 10 or 15 minutes every day is better than studying for hours once a week. Daily exposure keeps English fresh in your mind. It becomes familiar. Familiarity builds confidence. Confidence builds fluency. Stories also help with pronunciation and speaking confidence. When you listen carefully, you learn how words are pronounced naturally.
If you repeat sentences aloud, even quietly, your mouth and tongue become used to English sounds. At first, it may feel strange, but slowly, speaking becomes easier. Your confidence grows. One beautiful thing about stories is that they respect your pace. You can pause, you can repeat, you can listen again tomorrow. There is no pressure to move fast. Language learning is not a race. Everyone has a different speed. Stories allow you to move at your own rhythm. Motivation is another key benefit. Dry lessons often kill motivation. Stories create curiosity. You want to know what happens next. This keeps you engaged. Engagement increases learning time. The more time you spend with English, the better you become. You do not need difficult stories. Simple stories are the best. Stories about daily life, small challenges, relationships, dreams, and emotions. Simple language does not mean weak learning. It means strong foundation. Strong foundations create strong fluency. While listening, do not stop every time you hear an unknown word. This interrupts learning. Let the story flow. Trust your brain. If a word is important, it will appear again. If it is not important, you can ignore it for now. You do not need to understand everything to learn effectively. Repetition is your friend. Listening to the same story multiple times is very powerful. The first time, you understand the general idea. The second time, you notice new words. The third time, you feel comfortable. Each time builds confidence. Confidence is the real sign of progress. Stories also help you develop patience. They teach you to enjoy the process, not rush the result. Fluency does not come overnight. It comes slowly, quietly, through daily exposure. Stories support this slow and steady growth. Think about how you learned your first language. You listened for years before speaking well. You made mistakes. You repeated. No one taught you grammar at the beginning. Stories bring you back to this natural process. They remind your brain how learning works best. When English stories become part of your daily life, English stops feeling like a foreign language. It becomes familiar, friendly, something you are not afraid of anymore. This change in feeling is very important. When fear disappears, learning accelerates. Many successful English speakers did not become fluent by memorizing rules. They listened, they watched, they enjoyed the language. They allowed themselves to be beginners. Stories played a big role in their journey. Never compare your progress with others. Comparison creates stress. Stress blocks learning. Focus on your own journey. Every story you listen to adds something to your mind, even if you do not notice it immediately. Every sentence you hear leaves a small trace in your brain. These traces slowly connect. One day you will speak a sentence naturally and wonder where it came from. It came from the stories you listened to. When you feel tired, listen to a story. When you feel bored, listen to a story. When you feel afraid of English, listen to a story. Stories are gentle teachers. They do not shout, they do not pressure, they guide quietly. Make English stories a habit. Listen before sleeping. Listen while resting. Let English enter your mind naturally. Do not rush. Trust the process. Trust your brain. You are not bad at English. You are not slow. You just need more exposure, more listening, more stories. Give yourself time, give yourself kindness, and slowly, without force, English will become part of you. Learning English with stories is not just a method. It is a mindset, a calm, patient, enjoyable way to grow. Stay with the stories, stay consistent, and one day you will realize that English is no longer something you are learning, it is something you are living.